But we'll start with Manchester United. Another day to forget for Ruben Amorim as the holders were knocked out of the FA Cup by Fulham on penalties. Victor Lindelof and Joshua Zirkzee missed decisive spot kicks with Fulham through to face Crystal Palace in the quarter-finals.
We started quite well with good possession, controlling the game, but we cannot maintain that for all the game. Sometimes we drop the line to feel more comfortable, trying to use the transitions. I think during the game we create the best chances. Sometimes we didn't control the game with the ball, but in the end, with the penalties can happen for both sides, and today was not our day. It's always hard because you always have the cups when the league is not going in the right direction. But we need to focus on the big goal, is that improving the team, to trying to imagine how we are going to improve the team, not just in this moment, in this season, for the next season. So we have to think not just in the moment, but also in the future.
So there we go. We will come on to Fulham later, of course. But let's start with Manchester United. Sue, the holders out. How disappointing is this latest setback for them and for Ruben Amorim here?
Yeah, it is, and it's not very nice to go out on penalties. And it was a game that I suppose could have gone either way. It was quite scrappy at times. You know, both teams sort of losing the ball at times. Manchester United looking disjointed in and out of possession, which is something that I think we've said for large parts of the season. When they go forward, it's that creativity, that scoring of the goals certainly was lacking. And also conceding from set pieces. So you go, okay, you know, that sort of lack of concentration. They've conceded far too many goals from set pieces. Things I'm sure that Ruben Amorim is working on in training. But yeah, now you just look at Manchester United and go, well, their focus is obviously the Europa League now. Yeah,
OK. United's record goal scorer Wayne Rooney suggested it was naive for Amorim to say United wanted to win the Premier League title. This was Amorim's response.
Is to think that we are going to do this season or are going to be the best contender for the next season. So I know that in this moment everybody knows everything. So I know that, and this is really easy. I was a pundit when I finished my career, so I know it's really easy. Our goal is to win the Premier League. Maybe it's not with me, but our goal as a club, the board, is winning the Premier League like we did in the past with all the great glories and the legends of this club. And we want to do better, and we know that we are in the difficult moment, and I'm not naive. That's why I'm here coaching at 40 years old, the Manchester United.
OK, this is going to be fun because I can see both sides of this.
Yeah.
So whatever you say, I'll say the opposite. Yeah. Was it naive to say that?
You've got to set a standard within a football club, and United have been incredibly successful over the last 20 years or so, but not in recent years. So what he's basically saying is we want to get back to the top of our game. So there has to be an ambition to be at the top of the to be at the top of the table. There's a naivety to it to think that you can do it very quickly, but he hasn't really said that. He just said we want to win the Premier League. So I think it's worse if a manager comes in and says we're going to survive, we're going to find a way to get to where we need to go. You've got to set a benchmark, and the benchmark's to win the Premier League. If there's no aspirations to do that as a football club, then it's very difficult. But I do get it from Wayne Rooney's point of view, is that the big thing is that there's no time frame on it, and that's the side of it where Amorim gets away with it, where he just says, well, I didn't say it was going to be this year or next year. It's that's the ambition to get us back to where we want to be as a football club. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
See, he's answered both sides there, so I can't have a...
Back, can you?
Oh, that was cleverly done, Stephen Warnock.
But it's true, it is, and that's the thing. I think if he'd have said a time frame, if he'd have said, look, we're looking to win the Premier League this season or the next season, but he was just saying that's where Manchester United inevitably want to be. They want to be winning titles again. So, yeah, I could understand, because that's what you've got to have, that goal, haven't you, as a football club, as Manchester United. that is their goal eventually, to do that. We don't know how long that's going to take to get there, but I think that was his comments.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think back to Jurgen Klopp's first press conference. He said, by the time my contract's up, I will have hoped to have won a Premier League title. So he's given you a time frame there to say that that's when he would expect to have won a title. So there would have been a lot of people talking in and around his contract and saying, OK, you're coming up to this period where you said it. It's like Postecoglou this season. He's going to come under immense pressure because he said he always wins a trophy in his second season. So there's a time frame on it, whereas that's a little bit different. I don't mind. I quite like ambition.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be ambitious. I think there's got to be something that pushes the players to know what the expectations are at a football club. Now, whether it's working or whether it's not, that's not what's in the question here. The question is can I push these players to tell them that the ambition of myself or me as an individual, but also as a collective and as a club, is that we want to be competing for Premier League titles and we want to win one.
Yeah. And he actually said, didn't he, I might not be there, so
yeah,
it might not be under me, but that is where Manchester United are going to be at some point.
You can imagine the uproar if you said our ambition is to finish 17th. You can imagine it, can't you? You could have been, whoa. It begs the question, with Rasmus Hojlund playing as he is, and he may well develop, do they have any chance of winning the league? 18 games without a goal now. When you watch him, what's going wrong for him? Does he look like a player that perhaps needs some time out the firing line or some more intense... I don't know what it is, because he seems to appear in exactly the wrong place at the right time on occasions, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think we've said this on a number of occasions this season, that I feel sorry for him. I think you look at... He will work hard to get himself into the positions. He probably doesn't have that many chances that are created for him, but he just looks now like a player that's really lacking in confidence. You look, his first touch isn't quite there. He's not holding the ball up well enough. You know, even there were times yesterday where you thought he could go and press, and he's sort of a bit unsure whether to go or whether not to. So, is that obviously the change in system? He's trying to get used to that system and working within that system. Is it getting players in and around him more? Yes, probably. So I think there's a combination of factors. But at the moment, he just looks like a player that's really lacking in confidence and probably knowing what to do. He's still a young man. He's still 22 years old. And I think when Obi came on, he probably did more in that small amount of time. And he's a young man. He's 17 years old, and he's come on and wanted to make an impact. And he showed that impact. He showed that sort of bravery of running in beyond. He was fighting for challenges. So you just wonder, is it an opportunity now for maybe to take Hojlund out, just to take that pressure off him for a little bit, to come back in fresher, work with the coaching staff, and give Obi an opportunity?
Yeah, no shots in 16 games. Whoa. From a player who's nominally your centre forward. 17-year-old Chido Obi that you were referring to looked to have energy, to have no fear, to have the pace. Is Obi the one to fulfil that spot?
I knew there'd be one this morning,
I did,
Rob.
I was waiting for it.
The big thing is, for the difference between the two players is Obi's been chomping at the bit to get his opportunity. And when you get your opportunity, there's energy in your legs, there's enthusiasm, there's the ability to... Sometimes you make the wrong run and the ball comes to you.
Yeah.
It's strange the way that can happen at times. Hojlund's heavy-legged. He's low in confidence because he's had a tough season. So it's completely different contrast between the two players. They cannot be judged in the same way because of the amount of games that they've played and the positions that they're in. When Hojlund first came to the club, I thought, I don't mind him. I think he's got decent hold-up play. I mean, I remember the game away at the Emirates where he played against Arsenal, and he was battering Gabriel and Saliba about, and he looked physical in the way that he played. And I thought, they've got a decent player on the hands here. But when you actually look at his goal record at Atalanta, it's not brilliant. Wasn't great, wasn't really prolific. But I think they knew that when they bought him. I think they thought, he's a focal point, he's someone that can hold the ball up and he'll do a decent job. He's a player just sadly lacking in confidence. And they don't really have that option to really bring anyone else in that position. I mean, they've tried different players in that centre-forward position. They've obviously moved Rashford on. But Obi looks like he could be an option now to bring in. Will it last long-term over a period of time? We just don't know.
No.
Yeah, let's talk about Bruno Fernandes. There he is. Scored United's equaliser, send the game into extra time. Subject of a big debate last week with another former United captain, Roy Keane, suggesting talent isn't enough, was what he was saying when it comes to him. You say it's just not good enough to be the best player in your team to be captain. You've got to be a captain, you've got to be a leader, you've got to drag them with you.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment? Do we have captains in the game like that anymore? Because during that debate, they went back to Tony Adams, people like that, Roy Keane, I guess. Yeah. Van Dijk at Liverpool you would look at as one of those type of leaders. Do we have them? How important are they?
I think that they are dying out the game now. I think what we're seeing now is teams are coached in a different way and they understand the tactics more so on the pitch. But my big thing with Bruno is I understand what Roy Keane is saying. I mean, all the games that he's played well in this season that I've watched is when they're down. Well, that's not brave. Bravery's doing it at 0-0 or when you're 1-0 up and going to get the ball and closing down and doing it when it's the hardest moment in the game, where you do have to vacate a position and make a run or do something or go and close someone down. They're doing it at the moment, United, where they're doing it when they're a goal or 2 goals down and suddenly they come to life. Well, there's no pressure on when you're 2-0 down. That's not pressure. Pressure's 0-0. So I understand that side of it. Listen, there's no going away from his numbers. His numbers are incredible. On the ball, the guy's phenomenal. He sees things that other players don't see on a pitch, but he can also pick that pass. He can execute the pass. He's got that quality on the ball when you do need it. He can complete that pass under pressure. But go the other side of things. Would I like to play against him going the other way? Would he track you back? Would he be hard to play against? I don't think he is hard to play against. I think he's easy to play against. I think the other side of it, I'd worry when he's on the ball. But off the ball, I'd be thinking, there'll be teams watching Manchester United now and over the course of the season saying, run off the back of Bruno. He won't track you. He will not track you. Look at Decore's goal last week against Everton. For Everton against them. Doesn't want to track. He's 30, 40 yards away from Decore, and then he turns round and has the cheek to throw his arms up and blame everyone else because he made one press and no one else followed him in. But Decore ran off him 40 yards the other way. So there's a side to Bruno which is great, which is on the ball, but off the ball, where United really, really struggle, he's part of the problem. So you've got such a fine line with such a talented player on the ball, but off the ball, he's nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I just don't think you can question his ability, because his ability we've seen where Manchester United needs somebody to step up and produce something amazing. He can do that. You know, we saw it against Everton where he said he wasn't at his best in the first half, came out second half, brilliant free kick. You know, again, we see it yesterday, fantastic finish. So he's got that ability, and you can see his stats throughout. You know, I think it was since 2020, that wasn't it? So in the Premier League, what he's been able to do for Manchester United is incredible. I think when you're talking about a leader and a captain, I think that's something different. We've always known that there's been different sorts of leaders, isn't there? There's ones that are your Van Dijks that you can very much see he is that sort of communicator and gets the best out of the players. But then you also get players that lead by example. And the thing that I don't like about Bruno is the throw in the arms in the air and things like that. I don't think that sort of works for anybody. But I just think you cannot question his talent and what he's done for Manchester United.